Hello, welcome back to Movie Clip Mania. Today we are going to review the German-American psychological thriller The Flight Plan. Spoilers ahead. Like and subscribe if you enjoy our channel. Kyle Pratt, Jodie Cultivate, is a drive engineer situated in Berlin, Germany. Her significant other David, John Benjamin Hickey, kicked the bucket from tumbling off the top of an aeronautical assembling building, and presently Kyle and her 6-year-old little girl Julia, Marlene Lawston, are flying home to Long Island to cover him and remain with Kyle's folks. They fly on board a traveler airplane, an Elgin 474, which Kyle helped plan. Subsequent to nodding off for a couple of hours, Kyle wakes to observe that Julia is missing. Subsequent to attempting to resist the urge to panic from the start, she starts to frenzy, and skipper Marcus Rich, Sean Bean, is compelled to direct a hunt. Kyle strolls the passageways, addressing individuals. However, none of her kindred travelers had seen her little girl. One of the airline stewards brings into the air terminal they just withdrew from and, amazingly, the entryway chaperone says that they have no record of Julia getting onto the flight. Furthermore, as per the traveler manifest, Julia's seat is enrolled void. At the point when Kyle checks for Julia's ticket, it is absent. Marcus will not permit the freight hold to be looked in light of the fact that the searchers could be harmed assuming the plane moved because of choppiness. Both Marcus and the other group individuals suspect that Kyle has mentally broken down by her better half's new demise, and has envisioned bringing her girl on board. One airline steward, Stephanie, Kate Bean, is extraordinarily unsympathetic. Confronted with the team's rising wariness in regards to her girl's presence, Kyle turns out to be increasingly frantic. On account of her undeniably inconsistent, overreacted conduct, Air Marshal Quality Carson, Peter Sarsgaard, is requested by Marcus to watch and bind her. Later on, Marcus gets a wire from the emergency clinic in Berlin. It says that Julia was with her dad when he tumbled off the rooftop, and she likewise passed on from inner wounds. Kyle angrily rejects that, reliably guaranteeing that she brought Julia on board. The team currently accepts she is silly and she is taken back to her seat via Air Marshal Carson. A specialist, Greta Skaki, on board attempts to reassure her, making Kyle briefly question her own mental stability until she sees that a heart Julia had drawn before on the window close to her seat is genuine. Kyle is encouraged and persuades the advisor to let her utilization the restroom. With her cuffs presently eliminated, she moves into the upper compartment and disrupts the airplane's hardware, conveying the breathing apparatuses and hindering lighting. A few travelers fight with the distraction Bedouin travelers ready. She utilizes the confusion to take a lift to the lower cargo deck. She frantically looks for Julia, lastly opens her better half's coffin, to which she genuinely separates. Carson tracks down her and escorts her back. Kyle makes a last supplication to Carson that she really wants to look through the plane after landing. Carson considers briefly, then, at that point goes to address the skipper. Against airline steward Stephanie's order, they are landing, passing on the crowd to quickly accept he is thoughtful. All things being equal, he slips once more into the cargo deck to eliminate 2 little explosives and a detonator disguised in David's coffin. He then descends to a piece of the flight segment, uncovering Julia is resting, probably medicated, with her jacket and rucksack that nobody could find. He connects the explosives to the side of the stage and arms them. As of now, it is uncovered that Carson, Stephanie, and the coroner in Berlin, Christian Burkel, are the main bad guys and part of a trick. Carson lets the commander know that Kyle is a thief and is taking steps to explode the airplane with explosives concealed in the UN X-rayed coffin except if the carrier moves $50 million into a ledger. It is uncovered that the backstabbers killed Kyle's better half and snatched Julia to approach Kyle. Carson tells a scared Stephanie that he plans to explode the airplane's flight area, killing the oblivious Julia, and leave Kyle dead with the detonator in her grasp. In the wake of making a crisis arrival at Goose Strait Air Terminal in Goose Sound, Labrador, the travelers leave the airplane as the landing area is encircled by U.S. Government Department of Examination, FBI, specialists. However, the air terminal is appropriately illustrious Canadian Mounted Police locale. As the chief is leaving, Kyle hurries to address him with Carson close behind. The chief requests she surrender her act, uncovering Carson's misdirection. Rapidly assuming the part of thief, Kyle requests that Carson stay ready and the group land. When the plane's entryway closes, Kyle thumps Carson oblivious with a fire dowser, binds him to a rail, and takes the detonator from his pocket. Stephanie emerges from stowing away and Kyle shouts, "She's in flight, isn't she?" Carson rapidly recovers cognizance and shoots at Kyle with a disguised firearm, sending her running. He pursues Kyle shooting, until she secures herself in the cockpit. He uncovers his trick to work her out. She opens a portal entryway to the upper level and tosses out a fastener to trick him. Carson hears the higher-up crash and leaves. Kyle exits and experiences a responsibility-ridden Stephanie hitting her palm with an enormous electric lamp. Kyle talks her down and punches her out. Stephanie overreacts and escapes the plane, leaving Carson, who looks on. Kyle during this time look through flying lastly tracks down the oblivious Julia. Carson before long follows, and keeping in mind that looking, tells her how he choked and unloaded her girl into the food canister. He stigmatizes individuals on board who might never mind enough to take note. Carson directs his firearm toward where Julia lay previously, yet they're not there. He pivots and sees Kyle conveying Julia, getting away from through a little entryway with the detonator close by. Carson takes shots at her as she shuts the entryway. She explodes the explosives, killing Carson. The compartment she and Julia stow away in was non-ignitable, which protects them. Kyle, conveying Julia, exits through a freight entryway. Everybody watches in shock and awe as Kyle completes her girl onto the landing area. Later in the Traveler holding up part of the air terminal, Marcus apologizes to a situated Kyle embracing Julia. Stephanie is driven away by FBI specialists and more specialists approach Kyle, requesting that she distinguish the funeral home chief in Berlin who has been confined. She helps Julia, still oblivious through the horde of travelers, quietly making up for herself. One of the Bedouin travelers, Michael Irby, helps get her sack, an emblematic demonstration of regard and pardoning. Prior to stacking her girl into a van to remove them, Julia awakens and lethargically inquires, "Are we there yet?" as they drive away. In this film seems Christian Berkel, who will later assume the part of Fritz Shimon Haber in Haber, 2008. Thank you for watching and don't forget to like and subscribe.